Exp Commercial. The commercial real estate industry is very old school, very archaic, and very much behind the times, and has been ripe for disruption for many years. Now, Exp Realty in the residential side has become recognized globally as the fastest growing brokerage in history due to its completely unmatched compensation plan by dropping overhead, reducing expenses, going cloud-based, and affording to give more back to the agents for doing the same thing they would at any other brokerage with multiple streams of income. The ability to have ownership of your business by getting stock and equity in the fastest growing brokerage in history, as well as the ability to create residual income and build true wealth. And I'm excited to say that Exp Commercial is doing the same thing in the commercial space with completely unmatched splits, caps, the ability to build residual income and build an exit strategy, as well as getting better training, better tools, better resources, and guidance from people that have been the top agents across North America. Now, what I'm excited to do today is bring on the best person to talk to you about why Exp Commercial is so disruptive and why people are coming over here in droves and being ecstatic about what they're seeing happening to their business, and not to mention the massive amount more money they're making for doing the exact same thing based on the compensation plan. So I'm bringing on James Huang, who's the president of Exp Commercial, and we're going to dive deep into what makes this record-breaking brokerage so unique and why you need to take a look at it if you're a commercial agent. What's going on, guys? Super excited for this video specifically, a long time in the making and something that a lot of people have been asking about. So let's talk about Exp Commercial. A lot of people know Exp Realty in the residential space is the fastest growing brokerage in history, breaking all these records. And now, very humbled to say that we're the #1 transactional volume brokerage in the United States. So it's really cool to see what's happening with this brokerage, but not a lot of people are paying attention to the commercial division, which is probably, arguably so, even more life-changing than the residential side of Exp. So today we have a very special guest, Mr. James Huang, who is the president of Exp Commercial, and we're going to be diving deep into why this is such a unique opportunity for people in a very old school archaic lane of real estate and bringing it up to modern speed. So James, what's going on, man?
Mike, thank you. And it's a pleasure being here and trying to share what's going on in Exp Commercial. And you're absolutely right. One thing about commercial, we're stealthy. We're always behind the scenes. You don't know we're there until we're there. And that's the one thing that commercial, we don't always like to be on TV so much, but it's doing the deals in the back end. So, that's what commercial is all about.
Yeah, 100%, man. And before we kind of dive into the nuances and the differences between Exp Commercial as well as some of the more traditional avenues that you came from, you've got one of the most extensive track records in the commercial space that I've ever seen. So let's just, allow you to give yourself a bit of an introduction as to where you came from, what you've done, and what ultimately kind of led you to even consider this avenue, and then what got you over here.
Mike, thank you. So one of the things is when I was studying biochemistry. Everyone knows, like you, engineering, it was a STEM path, right? Being a doctor, but instead went to Wall Street, was an analyst with one of the big wirehouses. From there, I learned the business, analyzing deal flow, putting business plans, a lot of Excel. Then moved into portfolio management with Morgan Stanley. So I worked on a lot of pension plan programs before I moved into private equity, where I served under the largest tenant in common, which is the DST now, right? These are syndicated deals really to help with, especially in America, the 1031 exchange to defer taxes. When you are selling your real estate, you could defer your taxes. So a very important vehicle. But when I was working under the CEO, we were looking at so many buildings from this one national company, and they said it's the best training gym, this is the hardest, this is the the alpha league, this is like the special forces of commercial real estate. And I go, you know what, that seems kind of cool, I'm going to do that. So I went to Marcus and Millichap, to cut my teeth, to learn the brokerage business. So I spent almost 5 years at Marcus learning the skill set of commercial brokerage. And from there, I love the business. I love making the calls and engagement, talking and building relationships with clients, that I started buying and syndicating deals with my friends. So we kept on building a portfolio of real estate, so much so that I was more of a principal, not a broker anymore. So I had to leave Marcus. And then I said, you know what? I'm not done yet. I still have a bunch of clients. What do I want to do now? So then I started to form my own company, right? Said everyone wants to form their own company, think it's that easy. And by forming it, I always say the success of culture, right? As Mike, you know, culture, working with people you trust and like, it's paramount. But who would have thought, you know, from when we started, so many brokers wanted the culture, wanted to fit in, wanted to be a part of something bigger, made them grow our company to 180 commercial brokers. We were doing 2 billion in sales. We were this boutique regional full service commercial firm. And I would just say, Mike, 2009 hit when I thought everything was great. And I think that's, you know, very relevant right now, what's going on. So I always say I learned through the Great Recession, right? Getting our company through it. It was tough, but I got it through it with our agents, but not without some war wounds, as many of us that have been through a cycle learned. But those that are new, you know, I've only seen up, 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 but now we're going through some pain. So through the pain, I got to also work with a large franchise organization where I was their president, grew 80 franchise office, 10 international, before EXP told me to come by. And I loved it. And Mike, I think you will know this too. I said, look, I can grow a global brokerage firm, but what we need to do is to grow services in addition. So, you know, being and having this opportunity to scale something this great, it was a dream come true.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's been, you know, one of these things where a lot of people turn a blind eye to the model, whether it be commercial or residential, because of the fact that they're not yet educated on the opportunity. Again, just looking from my own experience, I've got about 6 agents a day that book into my calendar. 98% of them join after a 30-minute call because they're hearing it the right way this time, not, you know, the way that a lot of people are out doing there. So I think it's important to make sure that before people make a decision that there's an education component to it, because, you know, the way that I have always vetted entrepreneurial opportunities is if everybody's talking about something, that means it's, you know, within reason, usually proven. And if it's exponentially growing, there must be something to it. So let's find out what that is. And whether it's a good fit or not, you never know until you explore it, but at least make sure you get the right information from the right sources so that you can make an educated decision and validate it, and not just say, hey, heard from this person that isn't quite, you know, up to date with everything that's going on. Clearly it's not for me. So I'm excited to dive into this. And, you know, I think it's going to be important for you to talk about, you know, the differences between EXP Commercial as well as, you know, the traditional avenue that you came from. And then as we kind of get through the end of this, we can talk a little bit more about some of the incredibly exciting initiatives that are coming down the pipeline.
Mike, you know, I saw your calendar. Thank you for making time. It was booked solid, but that's amazing. And you're absolutely right. I was stalking EXP for 4 years. So one of our mutual friends, Tom Trong, told me right when he joined, he's like, Jim, you got to check this out. But being open-minded, I'm always open-minded, and what is there, right? I can always learn, we can always learn from everyone else. So I was stalking EXP, learning what you were doing, why you were so successful, so I can bring it to the company I was running, right? That's what we do. You know, that's the business way of flattery, is to mimic, right? Just to follow, is to just rebuild and put that together. But I kept on watching the model and watching. I go, hey, there's something here. This is a pretty good model, being publicly traded with a revenue share, having this total collaboration. And I said, this is exciting. To the one day there was a call where Jason Guessing, we met at a commercial, at an event. And he said, look, Jim, this is very exciting what you're doing. Why don't I schedule an interview with you with Glenn Sanford, Jeff Whiteside, Jason Guessing, RJ Jones. I mean, just the whole executive leadership back, I'd say 2.5 years ago. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember Tom said, don't screw it up for me. I may not be at EXP if you screw it up. But, you know, when they told me that they would like to interview me and then eventually give me an offer to come on over, I said, you know what, this is great. But like I said before, on the brokerage part, what I love so much, Mike, clean slate. As we know in the old school commercial brokerage, siloed, inefficiencies, brick and mortar. I mean, there was a lot of not using technology. That is the big one right now. Many big commercial firms were all, you know, the little filing, little decks that they had, right? All paper. I mean, not everyone even knew how to use Excel. No one used a CRM. There was no dashboard. So one of the biggest things that excited me about EXP, well, many things, but the technology, right? How we use the metaverse, how we work together. So when I had the opportunity, I saw having a blank canvas, being a separate brokerage company from Realty, right? Because true commercial agents want to be separated. Being publicly traded gives us that bandwidth. That is huge. Being corporate, not franchise, is another big one because we have portability. Commercial, we don't just work in one local area. Usually we work all around the country and the globe. So there were so many opportunities on this platform to grow. And I said this on the stage many times, and I mean it. 4 or 5 years ago, if you knew EXP was only going to be what, 6 or 20,000 people, to now it's 84, growing to 100,000 people around the world. Well, commercial around 700 in 1 year. What do you think we're going to be as the fastest growing commercial company in the US, expanding, yes, into Canada, Mike, where I know we can talk more about that. But this is so what's exciting is the platform, but also the open-mindedness of our leaders. Right? Yeah. The creativity, the nimbleness allowed me to say, look, it's not just brokerage, everyone. It's these services like the capital markets, like the asset facility management, like the valuation corporate services, so we could be called full service commercial real estate. This is why I was so excited when they gave me the opportunity, not to say it was easy, it was going to be hard, but in year one, we've accomplished so much. And Mike, I can't wait till this year ends and we share all the other wins of what we built for EXP Commercial.
Oh yeah, it's amazing to see. And again, the way that I always like to help people understand is that if you're an early adopter and a proven exponentially growing opportunity, you get rewarded or compensated unfairly compared to those that wait for the opportunity to mature. So you look at a lot of people that saying, hey, you know, I'm going to wait until EXP gets on the residential side 100,000 and then I'll look at it. Or I'm going to wait until commercial gets to 5,000, then I'll wait for it. But you look at the Elizabeth Rileys, you look at the, you know, the people that got started so early, you know, there's a risk factor, of course, to the unknown of what's going to happen. But that calculated risk is like getting into, you know, Amazon, Apple, or Tesla stock during its IPO. Well, if you held on to it for the last 5 years, you'd be in a pretty good place right now. So it's looking at the, you know, the proven track record of what these companies have been able to do and say, hey, if they were able to do it here, they probably are able to do it there. And I think that's what we're starting to see in the commercial space. Now, what I'm excited to talk about too, kind of before we get into maybe some of the objections people have had just coming from a very traditional mindset, is looking at the opportunity from a compensation perspective. Because when I'm talking to people about the residential side, it's just helping people understand that they're getting compensated more for doing the same thing they would do anywhere else. On the production side, you sell a house at any other brokerage, you get commission. You sell it at EXP, you get commission in stock. You know, the one thing that a lot of people have this misconception about is that these models are about recruiting or attracting. And the way that I help people understand that it's not what they're thinking is when I was a new agent at Remax and anybody reached out to me, friend, family, connection, social media, and said, Mike, where should I go? I said, Remax. I was there. When I went to a boutique brokerage in my city, I was a 24th agent, helped them grow to 130 in 2.5 years, added like 6-7 figures to their business, got $0 for doing it. But every time people ask, Mike, where should I go? Anybody's going to say their brokerage. Here, after 12 months, it turned into, you know, 50,000 residual and now on track to be 6 figures this month. You know, it's doing the exact same thing you would, but then looking at the ancillary effects of the retirement plan and the security blanket of the willability. Let's talk about the commercial side, because again, a lot of people are starting to get the gist of this on residential. They're not quite grasping what the true power of the compensation plan is on the commercial side.
Mike, I'll tell you, it's unheard of. I just say share, 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 because most of the big commercial firms are 50-50, no cap. No cap, 50-50. Even let's say if you paid your dues, you're more of a senior agent producing $500,000 GCI, 1 million GCI, maybe you're 70-30 with no cap. Maybe a sliding scale. These are the best, no cap. So 80-20, you know, capping at 20,000 in the US and $250 for tech fees that normally would cost you $35,000 to $4,000 a month. Because of our large volume and scale, we can bring down costs to do the transactions, the leasing, and we're doing business opportunities that no one wants or understands how to do, but we're putting these pieces together. So on the comp, we always say it's not making a lateral, you're making a huge improvement to your lifestyle. And I'll tell you right now, commercial agents all around, because, obviously with COVID, and then we had the higher interest rates coming on, people are making a decision because the amount that they're producing or taking home, they can't do it at the firms that they're at. And I just share it because we already now have proof of concept as the fastest growing commercial in the US. So there is a reason there with true commercial brokers. And now everyone else needs to look because it's a financial decision because of our comp plan, 80-20 capping at 20,000, unheard of. And I would just tell people to share, to have these dialogues with our team so we can share what we're doing. And Mike, I always say, you're right. We have to build the best platform, and you will naturally talk to friends and attract friends. That just comes with the business of doing the business well. Yeah. You don't need to keep going. You just say, I'm here. I love it here. Let me share with you. Let me invite you to some virtual events. Let me invite you to some of these, very large conventions to see the power of our company. That's all you need to do with a good product.
Definitely. And it's truly life-changing to see that, for me, a lot of agents say they get into the business to make an impact. And the one thing I help people understand, and some people like this, some people don't like this, is the fact that I help them understand that you got into real estate because you want to change people's lives. I'm here to tell you that you will never change somebody's life by helping them buy or sell a house. You'll make their day, their month, their year, but you will never change their life. But when you start looking at this opportunity, it's completely changed mine in 24 months, and we've now been able to change many others. But I think, again, like you're talking about, it's exciting to start seeing the not just compensation plan on the production side, but we also have the ability to get ownership of our own business. We have the ability to rip off the geographical restrictions and not just be kind of pigeonholed into our own little market, but now you're able to kind of, allow yourself and your brand to breathe. Because one of the things that we all understand is that success follows success. And if you're a commercial agent that is successful in your market, well, how many commercial agents around the world would love to know how you're doing what you're doing? It allows you to amplify your reach and get compensated very fairly and pretty, exponentially for doing that. So, what are your thoughts on some of the additional income streams in terms of like the stock ownership, in terms of the residual income, and also looking at the fact that, at least on the residential side, the average agent at EXP is saving like $600 to $800 a month using our health benefits and our healthcare. So you've got all these ancillary things because, as you alluded to, being such a big company, we have the capital to do something that the local boutiques don't. And that comes with a lot of power and weight behind it.
Mike, that's huge. I mean, by running boutique shops, that's why, there's ego. And I was saying commercial, they want to have their own brand and name, but now you have liability. But here, one big company branding yourself, but now you get ownership, because I don't know how many brokers I talked to. Maybe they deserved it, maybe they didn't, wanted ownership of your company, but maybe didn't put all the money in. We are all owners at the gross amount, not the net amount. We all can get paid by just doing what we're doing. We can also get revenue share. And when people say, I don't recruit, no, you just share. We all did, as broker owners, had to fill people. We always say had to put a butts in seats because it mattered. We all need to keep showing and sharing and promoting. So when you say you don't need to, no, we all do it. That's our job. But with the advantages of owning stocks, it aligns all of everyone in our company, because everyone that recruits, that helps somebody out, sends another referral. We all do better, right? The revenue by introducing and changing lives, especially in commercial, we all do better. And now, like everything, especially in commercial, we're all working with friends. I don't know how many people are all coming over in my 25 years of doing commercial real estate. I have friends that started and that I've known in the 90s that are over here now. And it is exciting. So when I talk, we don't even talk about business. We talk about shop, the good old days, the 90s, right? The 2000s. And it is exciting to see everyone embracing this model of growth. And then with our healthcare being agent-centric, what Glenn Sanford put together, that is unheard of, agent-centric. Normally, with the big old school firms, you work for them. But here, you feel like you work for yourself and everyone's helping you achieve your goals and dreams in life. So I love that we have all these tools besides putting the best platform together. all of these extras. And I actually don't even bring that up, Mike. I just say, oh, by the way, this. Really? We were already sold on your split and everything you're bringing on the tech. We are now even more sold. And you're right. People do save so much money on healthcare, especially during this time. Don't let your healthcare lapse. Look at how much EXP can save you as group healthcare. I would just tell everyone, always look after your family. Health is wealth. Please take a look.
Oh, big time. And you know, I love that you allude to that in terms of the collaboration, because one of the things that I've seen on the residential side, I'm sure it's very similar on the commercial side, is that the common complaint I get from agents that are at any sort of traditional brokerage is, Mike, I went to this brokerage because it's the number one in my city, and I thought by being around all the top agents in my city that I would become successful. But what you realize is that when you're in this same kind of franchise ecosystem or boutique local brick and mortar ecosystem, none of the top agents want to share their information with you, because that's just creating competition in their local market. But when you look at this model, even just looking at the training at EXP, the 50 hours a week in the cloud, it's the first time in history that a brokerage has taken the top 1% icon agents in the company and said, hey, you're training the rest of the company. All the top agents in this market, not in the 90s, not in the 2000s, today. So it incentivizes sharing of knowledge at the highest level. And now you're collaborating because you're all winning when you start sharing this versus the traditional hoarding of information. So are you seeing similar things on the commercial side?
100% and even better, because we love our Realty brothers and sisters because they pass us so many leads and referrals, because they don't know all the product types, especially in business opportunities. But this is the one thing great with what we're doing in commercial. Our value prop on our 80-20 capping at 20. Most of our good agents are done and 100%. Now you can be more generous, because can you imagine if you're at a 50-50 shop? Well, you need to almost double in to get the whole fee just to kind of survive, because the house is taking 50% or 30%. You don't have enough. So here at 80-20, people within the first or second deal, they have 100% besides fees. They're collaborating, sharing with their junior brokers, new brokers. They're collaborating with other people because our value comp system makes so much sense. There is a lot of collaboration. And with the stock, it just, everything aligns. And I saw this in Realty, but in commercial, it's even more. From the referrals from the residential to commercial, and then the value prop with our cap, we just keep sharing deals with each other because we can.
100%. And, I'm always excited to talk about this next kind of phase of our discussion, which is objections, because, I've heard everything under the sun on the residential side. And, when you really start to break things down, I don't think to date, after talking to about 1,200 agents per year on Zoom one-on-one, I don't think to date I've ever found an objection that is actually legitimately backed up that cannot be overcome when you properly understand this model. It's always, they think it's something that can't be resolved, but it's just because they haven't talked to somebody that has a depth of understanding of how to tailor this model to them. So what are you seeing as kind of common objections from the traditional way of thinking from, commercial agents at the old school brokerages? And what is kind of your response to that in terms of helping them understand the opportunity of EXP Commercial?
Yeah, Mike, and that's a great question. And it is true, learning from the right people. And that's why I think, and I tell people they should watch your show, your podcast, and everything else you do, explaining it the right way, right? And then you could talk a little more deeper. But in commercial, one of the main objections is, one, we were a newco. But after 1 year plus, we've shown some track record and some traction with good commercial brokers from the big firms. So that is not the biggest objection anymore, because we can tell people that came over from all the big companies, all the top 15 companies, right? Some of their biggest brokers and producers are part of our group right now. So the next part was, you're no brick and mortar, using Regis. That is one of the biggest ones, because they do like to work with each other. But because COVID, I would say more than 50% of the better brokers had to learn to work virtually. So because of that, that helped us, because many commercial brokers and teams said, I never want to come back to my office. So that objection already showed we can do it and work virtually. We don't always have to be in that high-rise Class A office, all coming in, driving 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours to get to the office. We can work using technology, using Zoom and other mediums like we're using now. So that almost overcame, right? And then there's the other part of, because you're right, commercial brokers are usually older. we are getting very few young people. So most people are now near their 60s in commercial real estate. They're just like, Jim, they'll say this, I love the platform. I'm just so old. It's hard for me to learn something new. So I'm going to stick with where I'm at because change for me is too hard. But that's really my biggest objection. Besides, you're right, not sharing, showing to enough people to let us take a look. And that's why I hope my getting to your thousands of people that follow you is to share the message, because this new model, especially for the younger generation, they love working remotely. They love working through technology. They love using innovation, creativity to solve problems and work collaboratively through tech. They're used to it. But it is really one, I needed brick and mortar, but COVID showed we can all work virtually. There's other ways using technology to work. The other one was really, I need to have certain tools, but we're always working towards getting the technology tools and integrating. And then the other really big one, which was being honest, Jim, I'm just too old. I'm just going to, follow the next 5 years out and I'm done. But, great model. And many leaders, I'll tell you, in the industry, we're all friends with each other, never burn bridges. They actually said, your model is the right one. They say it. They know it. They know in time it's going to take more and more market share, which we're doing, but it's just growing and sending the message. And always, as you and I know, fine tuning, always improving, listening to our agents. How do we get better? How do we get better, right? And I know with you and I are saying, being uncomfortable, right? A little uncomfortable. So we're always improving. We're always pushing the envelope a little more. That's what we're doing. So these objections to us is really not being exposed. Some people are just so old, they need the brick and mortar, or they're just too old, they just don't want to make changes. And our thing here is really sharing and exposing what we're doing in commercial. And I'll tell you, every decade, 20s and 30s, 30s and 40s, they're already, I'm in. When you get to around 50, 50 to 60, 60 to 70, that's when they're like, learning tech is hard for me. For me, remember the VCR days when the power went out and it goes 12, 12, 12, 12, flashing, right? And I laughed at my parents. Well, don't laugh at your parents because the kids nowadays can use mobile apps and things much faster than us. So technology is changing, as we saw with many tech companies. It's just the evolution. And if you're not on board, learning, watching, you're going to be behind when the market starts shifting very quick. And it is already, we all see it.
Oh, for sure. And I love when I get to talk to older agents, because when you really break down this model, it's a heaven sent opportunity for agents that are older, because, in most cases, this is why the saying exists, agents never retire, they just expire, because most agents don't save enough to actually exit the business. And when you look at the fact that the residual income of the revenue share is retained so long as you maintain an active license, you're able to take an agent that's 60 and allow them to work until 65. And then you're going to have 7 layers of people above you that are all helping you win, and 7 tiers below you that are all building their business. So you have the ability to, again, create that beautiful exit strategy and that retirement plan that people are looking for. But, one of the things that I was also curious about before we kind of dive into the, some of the exciting plans that you guys are working on behind the scenes is brand, because this is what I get all the time is, Mike, I want a luxury brand. I want a local brand. I want a recognized brand because maybe EXP hasn't touched down in your market yet. And the one thing that I always have to help people understand is that your brokerage brand doesn't mean anything. Your personal brand is what matters. And the example that I always use is I could ask 1,000 agents which brokerage Ryan Serhant was at before he started Serhant, and I bet you 990 couldn't give me that answer. But everybody knows who he was. They didn't know what brokerage he was at, still to date, right? And that goes to the power of, if a brokerage brand mattered, then you would be able to take the #1 brokerage in your market and be able to go through their stats and say every agent there has had a high level of production. You will never in any market find a brokerage that has over 20 people where every single agent is crushing in production. It will never exist. Well, if the brokerage brand mattered that much, then by nature of being there, then every agent would have deals coming from them. But that's not the case. Great agents at every brokerage, terrible agents at every brokerage. So the fact that me being very passionate about the personal branding side of things, it's exciting to see that EXP gives you immense flexibility with your brand to the point where we've had people come, for example, from a luxury brand like Compass, where they boast about their branding and elevate their brand to a completely different level, because as long as you meet the local board requirements of having EXP's logo in the right colors and the right size, you within reason basically have flexibility to do whatever you want. So now we're taking this brand and making it unique. What's the branding look like from that commercial side of things?
Mike, and this is great because when I was telling you about most commercial brokers, they have ego, but you're right. Many people now, before they would never let their team or group co-brand with the company, but it's happening now because you do need to brand yourself and your team or group. It is portable. You can go anywhere with it. And you're right. Most people, when I worked for the big companies, they said, oh, Jim, are you from Century 21? They didn't care. They knew they were dealing with Jim Huang, that serviced them, that took care of them, that answered their question. I always say we have the best platform with collaboration, but it's you, your brand, your reputation building. And exactly, I said this to Mike, to people, oh, so, these other big firms created you. No, I did it. Well, then why is it so important where you're at? Doesn't it matter what helps you and helps you grow and your team grows to take care of people? And they thought about it. They said, you know what, you're right. And then they started making that move because they realized it's about them with a platform that supports them. So that is the most exciting thing that I was telling, because EXP does have that flexibility. EXP Commercial does have that flexibility. Of course, we want to build the right platform saying EXP Commercial powered, brokered, with the company. So, underlying it's the best platform that we have. But many agents, especially in commercial, are so tied to their company, but they realize as you really talk to them, like you're saying, it's them, it's their team, it's what they built, it's their reputation, it's the years and years servicing a market. When they go, you're right, no one knows. They just pop up. It's them, powered, brokered, wherever they're at. But it is that self-branding, and that's the wave of the future, Mike. And even in commercial, more so now that they're opening their eyes, they're having that awareness that it's them. They were just building somebody else's company before, but now why don't you build yours?
100%. And one thing that I want to ask just before we kind of dive into this next phase of where EXP is heading with EXP Realty Commercial is one of the things that I love when I kind of just explore the nuances of commercial is the training, right? Because I've had multiple agents join me from the commercial division and say, Mike, I'm coming here. I'm a new agent. I got into commercial. I have no support, no training. I don't know what I'm doing. My broker won't help me and I'm lost. And I know that EXP offers like 3-day training sessions for commercial and all of these certifications. Do you want to talk about some of the kind of unique educational aspects of the commercial division that we have to make sure that we're continuing to build talent within the company?
Mike, that's great. Organic, because we need to fill the pool, right, with young, new people, second career people that want to learn commercial real estate. And many of them have really great skill sets. But many of the big firms now do not do training because they know it's very tough. Yeah. But because we're so large and we're virtual, we have economies of scale and using technologies to train, and we're constantly improving, right? So we still do these 3-day intro or different programs that we're putting to train new agents at a very low cost, affordable amount until you want to take the change into commercial real estate, where we're now improving our system that is going to be very robust, full service for about a quarter, keeping you aligned and accountable to doing your calls, engagement with meetings, creating your pipeline, right? We want to teach people how to be the best so that quarter training, watching you for a year, teaching you with product type specialties, services, teaching you how to underwrite, teaching you all the tech tools, teaching you the soft skills of how do you make a call, how do you overcome objections, how do you get a meeting, how do you get an exclusive, using that exclusive to market the hell, bring more client, rinse and repeat, get more business, till you create a pipeline of deal flows, right? Closing and escrows, right? So we're teaching all of that from a very simple that we're helping our realty brothers and sisters understand this business, because as the market's changing, I know you and I love Michael Valdez, right? Michael Valdez, our brother, he is tasking me to set up the Resi Commercial to train and teach, because we know diversifying your business helps, but now with the true commercial part of the company could expand it, that almost no deals you would turn away. And that's what we're doing, is building that funnel from, I'm just interested in learning a little to get the business, and then referring it or collaborating, and then working with people to a point says, I'm going to take the full leap of faith to work on commercial real estate full time, all the time, live the lifestyle. As you know, if you're commercial, we're passionate, we're a little crazy. We love this business just to do it. You're right, we'll never retire. They're going to carry us off. But when we do that with the most passionate people, training, teaching, educating you, creates that opportunity of there's no business you can't get from I just want to dabble to I'm ready to do it full time to one day you're a senior, you really have a lot of experience under your belt, and then you play it forward. You teach somebody else, you mentor somebody else. So we are putting some of the most robust training program together, overhauling it with some of the best leaders, trainers in the industry, all here at EXP. And even if they're not, we're bringing them in to help us teach and educate our people.
It's amazing to watch, and that's one thing that I've just been so impressed with the company is its constant desire and drive to continuously elevate the quality of the agents, make sure that when they come into this industry, everybody comes either A, to this industry, or B, to this brokerage with excitement, passion, drive. They want to build something substantial. But at most brokerages, you go to that brokerage with all that passion, and then you're quickly let down because you're like, what do I do? Where do I start? Where do I go? And when you look at EXP, they're constantly launching these initiatives with people like yourself and the most talented individuals of the company to make sure, hey, we're going to give you the blueprint and the roadmap of here's how you get started. And then we'll continuously educate you over time to make sure that you never remain stagnant, similar to the company that's always exponentially growing. So as we bring this full circle, Jim, what do we have to look forward to? Because it's so exciting to see that if the trajectory is anything like the residential side, there's going to be massive growth. The training initiatives are going to be incomparable to any other brokerage, and you're going to have basically talent popping up in EXP Commercial in all these different states. And being that early adopter in a new state, in a new country, is life-changing if we've looked at what's happened to the early adopters on the residential side. So what are you working on, and what can people start to look forward to from EXP Realty Commercial?
Right, thank you. And the goal to me is to build, when people ask me that question, I said virtual CBRE, a full service multinational company. That's what we want to be. But we have to take some baby steps with year one proof of concept in the US, in all 50 states, growing the brokerage part of the business. This part of the business now is continuous growth, but talking about Canada. So we hope to be up there October 27th, 28th on the Vancouver side. But Mike, I'll be on the Quebec, Toronto side soon enough, right? But we want to launch and share of what we can do for commercial in Canada and what the timeline is to build this out, right? So international growth. International hubs around the world where commercial is just being talked about, from development deals to leasing deals to just multifamily to resort hospitality, right? A lot of these hotels and resorts are looking, but also then connecting us all with technology, right? That is the key. We are building a plug-in system with dashboards that will unite the whole world, from whether you're doing transactions, leasing, business ops, asset facility management, capital markets, corporate services, valuation, right? They all kind of plug in from wherever you're at in our company to monetize, to send leads, referrals, and connect. So the big things that we're growing now in the US is a full service company. I'm excited to launch Canada first for commercial with the timeline, letting people know what we're going to do. But webbing technology with Michael, Megan, Ifume, Ilaria, she's great. We've been on a bunch of calls, and so many other global leaders with EXP. Now we're starting to put the technology so everyone can input information in. So we're truly a global firm collaborating on commercial. But as time goes on, we're going to add more parts. So the big thing is, we know the market shifted. Money is actually coming into the US. And these capital markets groups and finance and multinational groups are looking to place money in the US. So I think EXP as a whole is well suited to bring in capital, with a lot of the realty brokers knowing opportunities to bring their commercial brothers and sisters in to make a deal together. And a lot of deals will be coming in internationally to the US. to create these opportunities. So I'm looking forward to expanding internationally to Canada, hopefully Mexico next, building these services of the capital markets, asset facility management, valuation, corporate services, and a lot of these education tools, because we know the market's shifting. We need to educate people how to do smart business in a changing market. So look forward to tax reassessments, how to work with corporate services, working with Dawn on REO Relo, right? But REO, we've got our first REO assignment from her. She's right now at 5 stars. So all of this, Mike, collaboration from all these different departments working as one team. It's a very exciting time for EXP. And I just tell people, take a look.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the best way to wrap it up is take a look, because the way that I always, try and paint the picture for people is, at least, an entrepreneur is always going to look at an opportunity and validate it with the right information and then decide whether or not it's the right fit. But I've never seen a successful entrepreneur turn a blind eye to a proven exponentially growing opportunity and not at least vet it. And the thing that is really important for people is, let's look at the numbers, right? Because I've got a lot of, incredibly talented agents that have decided to partner with us, both on the residential and commercial side, where they kind of, didn't take too much time to vet this opportunity. But then when you run the numbers and you say, hey, you would have made an extra 60, 70, $100,000 last year, and you would have got all of these other things on top of that, what would you have done with that 60 grand? Would you have gone on vacation with your family, paid off debt, done something for yourself, done something for your spouse or kids? And when you start looking at the substantial difference, it all comes down to just at least exploring it. Because if we know anything about the residential side, you're going to hear it once and you'll never stop hearing about it, right? Is once you see it, it's impossible to unsee EXP. And the same thing goes for commercial. So at least look at the opportunity, because, history repeating itself, we're going to see that that's going to eventually be your competition, whatever market you're in. So why not educate yourself on the future, competition, so at least you can prepare. If not, get ahead of the curve and explore this opportunity. So, Jim, man, incredibly excited to have you on here. And again, guys, for anybody that's watching, if you do have any questions about EXP Commercial, you can feel free to reach out and we'll be able to have those discussions with you. Make sure that we look at the numbers, we explore the future of your business, where you want to go, and how we can bridge that gap for you with this incredible life-changing business model. So thanks so much again, Jim, for popping on today.